Welcome to PV Magazine Live. This is Christian Roseland, America's editor at PV Magazine, and we're here at the Intersolar Europe trade show in Munich. I'm lucky to be joined by my friend, Dr. Rodrigo Sauaia. He's the head of ABSolar, which is the Brazilian Solar Industry Association. Dr. Sauaia, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
It's a pleasure to be here once again, Christian.
Always a pleasure. So, now that we dive into the difficult stuff, over the last few years, we've been hearing a lot about the political and economic changes in Brazil, and I think many people who haven't been in the Brazilian solar industry are curious to know, how is this affecting Brazil's solar market in broad strokes?
Okay, first of all, just so people understand, in 2016 we had a very rough year for our economy, and we reached the bottom of the well. What we're seeing now, Christian, is that in 2017 we have some signals that the economy is starting to come back alive, which is a good signal for the market because it will show demand for the future in electricity consumption. In 2016, although we had complications on the political side with impeachment and also on the economic side, the PV market actually wasn't significantly affected by that. We had 300% growth on small-scale distributed generation projects. We had, unfortunately, an important auction at the end of the year in 2016 that was cancelled, so that was pretty bad for the market. And this year we're hoping to see a new auction coming up on the second semester.
So if we look at just large-scale solar, I have heard of a number of very large plants that are under construction right now in Brazil. How much solar do you expect to come online in these big projects by the end of the year?
Well, distributed generation market, what we expect is 300% growth once again, which is good news. Probably by the end of the year, around 150 megawatts of total accumulated installed capacity, when in the year we started with 50 megawatts, so that's 100 megawatts of new added capacity in distributed generation.
So you're saying the DG market the capacity will triple by the end of this year?
That's what we're saying, yes. That's our expectation. And on the large-scale side, we do have a lot of projects being developed at the moment and being built specifically from the auctions in 2014 and 15. And accumulated distributed generation and large-scale projects, we expect to reach 1 gigawatt by the end of this year. So this means Brazil will be joining the 1 gigawatt club, we hope. That would mean one of the 25 countries in the world with more than 1 gigawatts of operational PV.
Wow. So this is such a complex story because we have all of this progress, we have all of this growth, and at the same time we have an auction that was canceled. What are we looking for in future auctions? What are your expectations of how this process will go going forward?
First of all, next year we already have projects that were contracted in 2015 that will be built. So we have at least 1 to 2 gigawatts that will be developed next year, will be built next year. We are also working with the government to try to structure one auction this year to deliver in 2020. So that would mean we'd have more capacity, more demand available for the market, and also helping to build the value chain here in the country, which already has more than 20 companies fabricating on coming years. So our prospects are still sunny for the country, for Brazil, and on the middle and long term, even sunnier actually. So our aim for the long term, ABSolar's aim is 30 gigawatts by 2030. The government target currently is 25 gigawatts by 2030. And that would be 10% of the electricity matrix by then. So solar now is 0.02%. We will grow to 10%. That's 500 times growth in about 15 years.
Wow. That will certainly be very exciting. Now, I noticed that one of the drivers, well, first off, one of the complications has been access to financing in terms of getting solar projects online, but there's funding available through BNDES, the development bank in Brazil, and this comes with the caveat that there must be locally produced components. From the BNDES local content requirement, what are we seeing in terms of the development of manufacturing for solar in Brazil?
Yes, well, there is a lot of manufacturing actually happening in Brazil currently. We have mapped around almost 1 gigawatt of local manufacturing capacity of PV modules. We also have, that's around 8 module manufacturers in the country.
Now, is that currently online now, or is that being developed?
That's maximum manufacturing capacity currently online, but the manufacturing sites are not producing at 100%, so that's something to take into consideration. We also have around 6 inverter manufacturers in the country, plus tracker manufacturers, plus electrical components and materials manufacturers. So the market is starting to get structured in terms of the value chain. Yeah.
So we're seeing actually not just a huge growth in photovoltaic deployment, but Brazil emerging as a significant region for solar manufacturing globally.
Well, that's the government's intention, and we are trying to structure that. There is one important obstacle that we are still facing, which has to do with competitiveness. So manufacturing in Brazil currently is more expensive than using equipment that is imported. And one way to try to structure this correctly without creating market barriers in which we do not believe is to have a good industrial policy in place. So there is a lot of work there, and we want to learn from the experience of successful markets that have local manufacturing on how to structure a good industrial policy without market barriers.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
It's my pleasure.
And for PV Magazine, this is Christian Roseland at Inner Solar Munich.